Hey, second grade teachers. I hope that you enjoy our lessons this week. It is all about shapes. So we are going to be diving into starting with our lesson 26. And lesson 26 is kind of jumbled in the book, but what we've done is we've kind of come up with a way that we can clearly and concisely teach the standard for this. This standard is not as beefy as I feel like that first grade standard is that they start diving into in first grade is learning with shapes. We're not doing all the 3D shapes. We're just learning about the cube, and that's in a supplemental lesson. So I did not do that one for our videos. But what we've done is we have 3 lessons today. The first one is talking about those triangles, the squares, rectangles, hexagons, pentagons. And then we saved a whole day for quadrilaterals. And we did that with the purpose of, to be very honest, last year I didn't do a good job of teaching quadrilaterals. I lumped it all into all the other shapes, and it came time to assess, and it was very evident that I did not give those quadrilaterals the time that they needed. So this year I knew I needed to do something more. The lesson for quadrilaterals isn't entirely beefy, right? So you're going to find that it's probably the shortest lesson of the 3 that I did for this week, but it's just getting that language out there, specifying that, talking a little bit about subsets. I hope it's not too confusing for you or for the kiddos, but I tried to make sense of, a square is a square, but it can also be a quadrilateral. A rectangle can be is a rectangle, but it's also a quadrilateral. So I talked about we have our girls in our class and our boys in our class, and they're all second graders. So a square is like a boy, but he's also a quadrilateral. He's also a second grader. A girl could be that rectangle, and she's also a second grader, or she's also a quadrilateral. So they actually fit both categories when we are describing them. And so really getting through that understanding that a quadrilateral is any 4-sided, 4-angled, 4-verticed shape. And so having that conversation. So it's not as beefy of a lesson, but it's very specific to quadrilaterals themselves. So we left a spot on the chart on that day 1. We added to that chart on day 2. And then I kept that chart up for day 3 because day 3 is the part of the standard where they're having to draw those shapes. You might use the boards that have all the little pegs, and you can use the rubber bands for them. If you have kids that are having a hard time just drawing them, maybe they need that to help. They may need pattern blocks to help support that learning of building them and then drawing them. And I tried to talk a little bit about that, especially when it came time to those hexagons. So there's 2 hexagons that I drew up that actually can be made with those pattern blocks, those 2 trapezoid pattern blocks. And one is when they're put together long side to long side, and then the other is when it's short side to short side. And so they see that both of those are hexagons. So just kind of keeping that in mind, that as you teach this, some kids may need a little bit more support. Some kids can draw them like that. They know they did that in kindergarten, and they did that in first grade, but they may just need some more support with that. So using those little pegboards with the rubber bands, or using those pattern blocks might be really helpful for that. So just keeping that in mind. Those are those 3 lessons. I'm doing day 1, day 2, day 3, and then day 4 is building that cube. So hopefully that helps this week. I hope you enjoy teaching shapes. I think your kids will enjoy teaching or learning shapes because it's something different than what we've been doing. So it's a nice little break. And then next week is fractions. Have a fantastic week.